she's not.
Hey, welcome everybody to podcast number 56, presented by 5-Pin Universe. I'm your host, Cary. We have the Wiseman twins, Tim and Dexter, Adam Weber, and our two special guests for our first live on a Wednesday is Mr. Cary Snyder and Danny Gombac, the men from the trenches all these years.
Hey, boys.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. Welcome to the party.
And just so if our listeners know, it is Cary Snyder's birthday, and I heard he's old as dirt. But don't tell anybody.
Just a few years under the age of dirt.
So I guess we'll bring up our first topic. We will have people commenting on the side here. I'll hopefully bring in their questions if they have some. But our first topic will be the whole COVID situation and how it's affecting your daily lives.
Who wants to start?
Go ahead, Danny.
For me, it's a bit scary actually, because I have a newborn, 7 weeks old, and I still got to go to work, right? Got to pay the bills and everything. So I'm in contact with limited people every day. But if I bring that virus home and my baby gets it, that's game over. They're the least likely to get it, a newborn, but it's the most dangerous if they do get it. So for me, it's a bit stressful, but I got to pay the bills. So I still got to go to work and I got to be careful and do my due diligence. So it's a bit scary. And I played sports all my life and they're all canceled. So that sucks. But what do you do? So yeah, it is what it is, I guess. Right.
Yeah, for me, it's been interesting. I work, as most of you guys know, with Teen Challenge, and we work with the vulnerable sector. And so I was, I guess, secondhand exposed on March 19th or March 20th, I think. So I've been working from home since then in self-isolation, and I started feeling symptoms 12 days after March 20th, which was April 1st. And I got fairly sick on the weekend and went and got tested on Sunday, and waiting for my results, but I'm feeling much better now. So I think I'm coming out of it. Not sure if I actually got the virus or not, but I'm hoping to hear maybe tomorrow. But yeah, same as Danny, I'm, you know what, I'm just missing being able to get out. So I've been kind of locked up in my condo here since March 20th and celebrating my birthday by myself today.
How was the testing? Because the videos I've seen, it looks terrible.
Yeah, it's as intrusive as you can imagine. It was just a swab as deep down your nose as you can possibly get. So, it stung, but it was short. Like they're in and out of there in like a second. So pretty quick.
Crazy. Well, if you need a good reason to self-isolate, there it is. You don't
exactly.
try to avoid getting the swab down your nose.
For daily life, I guess on my side of things, I'm in the same situation as Danny, like because we're considered essential service, so I have to go in every day. But we're lucky enough that we can have a lot of our employees working from home because it's a counting system or whatever. So the ones with kids that have to do homeschooling like that, they have those opportunities. So I was talking with Dexter earlier today. It's kind of night and day between our two communities. He's up in Sherwood Park. He doesn't see any traffic. And here in rural Wetaskiwin, it seems like everybody's in essential service. Everybody's working. There's vehicles on the road. So I don't know if it's the mentality of the rural area against the urban area. I'm not too sure. But everybody you run into is practicing safe distancing. They're staying 6 feet apart. So it's just a completely different world. I see it a little bit different than I guess some of the guys from the major cities.
Yeah, it's crazy. Every day that I drive to work, it's straight down Sherwood Park Freeway. It's literally one road that I'm on. It goes from 80 to 100 and then back down to 80. And I complain about that road every friggin' day because nobody goes the speed limit. They're always doing like 70 on this thing. And I get so mad going to work. And now I go to work and I've got free reign of that road. I might pass 3 cars on the way to work in the morning. It's pretty crazy. I sent Cary a picture this morning of the parkade in my underground parking for my condo unit, and literally I'm gonna say 85% of the cars were still parked when I left for work this morning, and just nobody's going anywhere. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Daily life for us is like, well, it is what it is. I mean, our situation's still what it was last week. We did get a little bit of help from our landlord this week, so that's a good step in, keeping business afloat. But based on what Kenny's response was yesterday, it doesn't sound like this is going to be done until the end of May at least. So better get used to finding odds and sods to do around the bowling alley here, because yeah.
The nice part is Dexter and I both got fired, so so when we show up to work, they can't yell at us to go back to work because we're just doing it for free. So I'm okay with that aspect. So it's nice to do some stuff, but I can't imagine 2 more months of it. It's going to be quite boring after a while.
So it's only so much busy work you guys can do, right?
Well, we can pre-plan for next year. We can do some stuff like you can get through your promotional stuff. You can get through your ideas that you wanted to get through, and then when everything comes back, at least you prepare for it. But there's only so much time you can do that too, right? So before you want to check out for a while.
How about financially though? That bowling alley, like without an income, and do we get into that? Are these bowling alleys all in trouble now? And is there a next year?
It's yeah, Danny, it's killer. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I can see lots of bowling alleys closing. The $40,000 doesn't even cover a lot of the stuff. Like our center itself, you're looking at a $25,000 for a monthly lease and condo fees, right? And so that $40,000 doesn't really do a whole lot. But with we laid off all our employees. We cut off everything we could. So we're bare minimum. Obviously, Dexter and I are going to be applying for the EI thing tomorrow, and we'll go from there. And I can see it really hurting. I mean, I know there's some centers in Edmonton we were pretty close contact with, and they're like, well, is this all for nothing that we're doing all this work right now? Because you don't know if we're going to open up again. And I know, I'm sure we will. I mean, sure, everybody will mostly, but it's tough, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, Danny, is it's all based on landlords and whether you own the building and what your rent is, because the landlords still hold all the cards. If they tell you have to pay, you have to pay. It's a little bit different than the residential, and I don't know. I don't know if that $40K, which still hasn't come out yet, $40K business loan, I don't know if we'd even be able to apply, because there's some stipulations around it that like even like the amount of wages that you have to pay out and whatnot. And for us, we might be able to apply. A lot of bowling alleys might not be able to apply, depending if it's mostly like the owner that works all the time.
Yeah, a lot of bowling alleys are run by the actual owners themselves, right? So it's going to be hard for them to apply for the BDE loan, right? Because most of their fees are management, and that's one of the stipulations is that can't be included in your $50,000 wage amount. So it is going to be tough for the smaller centers. The big centers are going to be, hopefully they have a nest egg to hold them over for this. But they probably could apply for that $40,000 loan, even though it's maybe a couple months worth of lease fees, right? But
the centers that I see being in like great shape are the ones that are in the basements of things. Like truthfully, like there's
no other option for them,
right? Not a lot of option besides storage, and the rent is usually significantly cheaper, right? But it's not prime real estate, so I think those ones should be good for sure.
Okay, here's the problem though. So let's say you guys can apply for this business loan. It's a loan, right? Right? You're borrowing this money and you have to educate me here. You have to give it back, right?
Yeah, but it'll be deferred over time.
Margins. Right? Look at the profit margins on bowling alleys. So you borrow 40 grand, 50 grand, whatever this is to get through this. How are you ever supposed to pay that back? You're chasing your own tail for how many years to try and pay the government back?
Yeah, and truthfully, I mean, even with our landlord working with us, it's not you don't have to pay rent. for the next couple of months. It is a rent deferral. So instead of us
Right.
paying, $25,000 in rent, we're paying 10. So that extra 15 is going to have to come back at some point, right? And that's he's probably looking, sooner rather than later. So I guess at the end of the day, that's sort of a loan situation there too. But yeah, you just gotta do what you can in the meantime and move forward.
So yeah, so for me, I own my own small business, Garage Doors. I'm Garage Doors by Dan. So I don't know what I qualify, what I don't qualify for. I have no idea. Me and my wife are in the process trying to figure it out. But the last thing I'll do is go out and get help from the government that I'll have to pay back. Because I know if I go borrow whatever lump sum from the government, now instead of just breaking even and being okay, I have to find a way to reimburse that money somehow. And it's just not realistic for me to borrow it and then have to pay it back when the economy recovers. And who knows when the economy is going to recover? That could be 3, 4, 5 years before it fully recovers. And it wasn't doing great in Alberta over the last couple of years. We've all seen it decline already.
Yeah.
So at what point as a bowling alley, I know what I'm going to do as a one-man company. I don't have overhead. I've really cut my overhead down. I'm in good shape where I'm just going to ride it out and not borrow any money from anyone. But as a bowling alley, when do you decide we're getting in too deep here. Now what? Yeah. Right? And who knows? That's going to be a work in progress for you to figure out, as this goes.
Well,
right?
These leasing or the rent holders or whatever have to be looking at that too. If the bowling alley is going to look at closing its doors, now that lease or that rent has to find somebody that's going to take that space. And with the economy down, are they really going to find anybody to replace that? Yeah. So why not defer the lease cost, as long as, I guess, they're not holding a huge mortgage on the building? Yeah. Defer it and keep that business alive for you in the future, right?
The other portion, Danny, too, about that 40,000 K loan, and I was going to mention something, but Robert Gallagher mentioned here too. The thing about that loan is that if you qualify for it, there's some stipulations around it too, but you don't. In a lot of the situations, you only have to pay back 30,000 of that loan. So you get a 10,000 kind of. So it's better than borrowing from somewhere else.
And zero interest if you pay back the full year. So
yeah.
Well, zero interest is huge. People, I don't know that people that aren't businessmen they don't really understand interest and how much it accumulates and how damaging it can be. So
this is through the BDE and the banks, right? It's not government restrictive or anything like that. Right. So they're trying to help the better businesses and stuff like that.
But Danny, see, my biggest worry is we can get back. I don't know about the people worry about the second wave. Let's not even worry about that at the moment, but you have to think about it. But when we come back, are the stipulations only going to be like, you're only going to allow to have 50 people at once in the center, or you're going to have a 6 foot or 6 feet difference in between lanes? So if you're bowling league, do you just bowl by yourself and then have another team bowl by themselves set beside you?
There won't be any of that. They're either going to say everyone's open and you're fine to handshake people, or we're still at home. I can't see how they would ever loosen the rules.
I think it could be a couple, I think open up in June. This is me just thinking myself after day with Kenny. In July they might open up a little bit more. You just don't know. It's scary. I don't know. Imagine you're in Chinook or at Bonnie Doon and you have 48 and 30. 32 or 36 lanes, and you can only use 50 people on that center. That's crazy.
Yeah. There's no use opening the doors, of course.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Guys, has Alberta made an announcement? Have they canceled the Calgary Stampede yet or no?
So Calgary just went, so it's good of our mayor to do it, but there's nothing's allowed to be hosted in Calgary until June 30th. 15 people or more. Nothing. No events, no group sports, no nothing. I got an email. So baseball's supposed to be starting end of April, right? All these ball teams, we've already paid league fees, all this, everything canceled till June 30th. Yeah. And then to further notice, right? So now what? right? How are we going to play anything? How am I going to go to Canadians in August in White Rock, BC? We all have B&Bs booked, 20-man roster, right? There's 24 of the best slow pitch teams in Canada. It's the biggest event every year. We got everything booked. We got everything. We had sponsorship lined up, thousands and thousands of dollars of sponsorship for this tournament. Now what? Right? I got sponsorships pulling out. RBC, Scotiabank. We were sponsored by them. We're not sponsored by them no longer. Right? The event won't even happen, guys. I don't even know how it's going to happen. Right? It'd be awesome if it does, but how? Right? They're already suspending sports till June 30th in Calgary. Right?
Yeah.
We can't be the only ones. Calgary can't be the only mayor looking at that.
Oh no. Out here in Ontario, it's groups of 5 or less. I think Quebec might be groups of 2 or less, and you're not allowed to do much.
Yeah.
So you're not even allowed to go visit people anymore, and any of that type of stuff. So
in Ontario.
Yeah, in Ontario, you're not even supposed to go to people's houses or anything like that. And groups are 5 or less. We're on lockdown.
Yeah,
I think they have some communities on lockdown in Quebec as well.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
like complete communities.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
So I guess moving along with the bowling topic. So there was a couple of people that asked about the Heritage Traditional, and Cindy had kind of responded. Where is that? Right now they're taking it day by day for the traditional because it was supposed to run May 7th to the 10th. Obviously, I highly doubt that will be even a sniff. I'm pretty sure they're going to be postponing. I guess what are your guys' thoughts if a major cash tournament that runs during the late part of the bowling season all of a sudden jumps to the middle of summer, right? Just to hold over the WCBT tour, finalize it, and then hopefully we can have a tour championship in August. Do you think that a tournament of that magnitude that gets 200 entries will have a shot at moving into the middle of summer and hoping to get a decent amount of numbers?
I think you can move it in the summer anytime you want. I just think cash flow will be tough, and I think you won't hit the 200 people.
Oh no!
And it's unfortunate. I would think 125 entries maybe. I would think that with re-entries, people are still gonna have some cash. People are gonna want to play, but no matter how much cash flow, if they're able to travel, I mean, guys down east, I don't know if they're gonna be coming out to travel, and then hopefully they don't. Put the border, like they're talking about maybe even closing off the provincial borders, right?
Well,
if that's
supposedly,
the case,
from what I heard, if you cross a border, like if we were going to Saskatchewan or whatever, we're supposed to do 2 weeks self-isolation. I had a buddy that just flew out to Nova Scotia, or not Nova Scotia. Yeah, Nova Scotia, I think. And they got to self-isolate for 2 weeks in Canada, right?
Yeah, that's what they're doing out here, out east now. You're not supposed to be crossing borders, and you're supposed to self-isolate if you do.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So how is anything going to move forward, guys? Anytime, right? The numbers are getting worse every day. It's going to take who knows how long, but when are those going to reverse? And it's not just about them reversing. It's about being at zero before they open everything up, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how sports are going to move forward. I don't know how this is going to work, but it's not looking good, gentlemen.
Well, both Canada Cup and 55 Plus is all canceled already for the year.
Yeah.
They're not running their national events or anything like that.
They haven't canceled Four Steps Nationals yet. Four Steps Youth Bowl Cup.
That's late August, right?
No, it was supposed to be May. It's been postponed from then. That's supposed to be the start of May, but it's been postponed from then. They haven't set a date yet. There's a time period at the start to mid-July that they were looking at, but they're reconvening at the start of May to figure out if that's viable or not.
Right.
I could definitely see if things did open up, though. I could definitely see a significant amount of at least Alberta bowlers going to support that event and try to make it as big as an event just for the WCBT and Heritage, and support Heritage for everything they've done for all of us. And people are going to be chomping at the bit to get back bowling.
Sure.
Problem is, I cannot see it. If we're talking end of June now, that's going to be pushed back even further, right? So now we're talking probably August, and then what happens with Tour Championship, right?
Well,
Like, does that get pushed in November?
The great thing
December?
about Tour Championship is, like, literally it's a 12-person event besides the Gallagher Cup, but we could move that. Like, that's a small ask to coordinate 12 people and the camera crew and stuff like that. It's not a 135 player event, right? We can definitely move that to accommodate a proper season, but obviously you don't want to get pushed into October when you have a new bowling season starting up, and hopefully things are running by then.
And tournament 1 of the new season, right?
Yeah.
Good luck, guys. I don't know. I mean, what's really shitty is you guys have done an amazing job putting this tour together, and all the steps you made. Like, look at these cash events now. They're all like unbelievable. TPC, that reminds me of KG back in the days.
Yeah.
Getting 200, like, all the work you guys have done, it's absolutely phenomenal. It's unbelievable. And all of a sudden now it all comes to a crashing halt, and who knows when it restarts.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pretty
A virus of the century, right?
But I mean, like, I feel it's not just the WCBT. I mean, it's huge, but I mean, like, I feel like we're sitting here talking about Masters Nationals, and as of right now, Masters Nationals, it's up in the air. There's no answer either way yet. Still playing it by ear. So for those asking, there's no definitive answer on anything like that yet. But if it doesn't run, I feel horrible for certain people.
Oh, wow.
Bobby Kite. I mean, Bobby comes out and he has a huge. He shoots 400 his last game to make the team. Super awesome. Like, what an experience, and like, it would have been great for him. And Robbie Wolfson, who's worked his ass off for
100%.
so long, and I mean, he's had such an amazing season, and to have that taken away from him would be devastating. I mean, obviously, those who made it all want to play, but man, would I feel terrible for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone on the screen knows how hard it is to make an Alberta Masters team. Like, Cary, you were in Alberta for a little while, but everyone understands the caliber you need to be to make an Alberta Masters team. And for Bobby Kite and Robbie Wolfson to, I would guess, probably not even be able to make that national championship that they qualified for, they might never get back there. They might, but they may not. And that's just, to me, that's so crazy, because you got to work your ass off to make that team, man. And you're instant favorite. I'm sorry, you're maybe I'm a bit biased, but you're a favorite to win a gold medal when you make an Alberta Masters team.
You wouldn't be biased, I don't.
But
I don't know. Saskatchewan has all those gold medals at Masters, Snyder? I know you're Ontario now, but
you brought up a good point, Danny, about the tour and people not be able to participate in it. Like, I was talking to Dex today, like, our satellites for our events are more important than ever now. The $40 will go a long ways compared to 200, right? So I might see maybe run a couple more of those. I was talking to my local, like my core people with the E5 that I talk to all the time, and I think locally we have the money where maybe we can promote bowling a little bit more, help subsidize the youth a little bit more, or get people in the centers more, or do like a free tournament where they just bowl, because people just want to bowl, right? And we got to figure out something with that in that aspect. But yeah, it's going to be hurting for a while, and I just don't know. It's so much uncertainty out there.
Hey Timmy, with the gaming funds themselves, like, you guys have X amount of time frame to have all that spent. Correct. Now with basically, this whole season being up in the air, is it possible to look for an extension on any of that stuff?
Well, they like their money, and I think they need money right now, the government. So Danny's anti-government, I'm anti-government too. So, that being said, I know for a fact that we're supposed to be hosting. A5 and Masters is supposed to be hosting a casino in the summer, and that already got pushed back. And they say, you know what, we have to make these ones already got canceled already, so they're pushing everybody back. And E5 has another one coming too, right? So they might push that extension back because all the rest of the casinos get pushed back, which would be great. I had at the end of the year, we have such a huge chunk of money we spend for our youth and everything at the end, and we had to cancel all those events. So it's a big kicker for us right now. So I'm hoping we have some time to spend it more, or more creative ways at least.
Yeah, that's the last thing you want is that deadline to come up, and then you have to give all that funds back to AGLC, who's gonna use it for what? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
On a lighter note, Tim, there was a question for you in the chat here. Given all the time you've had to reflect on your life, have you had enough time to think how juvenile it is to hold on to feelings about Shirtgate this long?
I still don't know who that is, and she's irrelevant to me.
Oh,
Wow.
Well, take that how it is, I guess.
Hi, Sean. Hi, Sean.
Yeah. So I guess, have you guys picked up any new habits going on through this self-isolation period? I know I've been playing a few too many video games and watching a few too much Netflix, but
For me, it's been, because of the kind of work I do, we had to come together just nonstop with meetings. So the first 2 weeks, my work doubled. So I was working pretty much all day, every day, and then just kind of got back to normal last week. And so I probably watched a few little more series on Netflix and Crave TV, and downloaded the Crib app so I can maybe challenge Gombac to a match sometime. You know how to play Crib?
you are showing your age there, Cary. My God.
Used to be poker, now it's crib.
You know who plays Crib? My grandpa. That's it.
It's a good game, boys.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay,
really
Grandpa
snoozer.
Junior.
Is anybody else missing competition? Like, so, I mean, I can't be the only one. I find myself going on my phone and downloading how to play Hearts, like the app to play Hearts, and golf challenge, and I'm mad if I lose a game against some person I don't know on something that means nothing, right? It means nothing. There's no money on the line, there's no nothing, but I have no competition in my life with no sports for the first time in my life since I was like 5. So this is a problem for me. Like, now I'm getting mad at my phone when I lose at Hearts against some random people I don't know.
Go buy a Nintendo Switch. Go buy Mario Kart. We'll race.
Actually, Danny, we've been doing something that you would really enjoy. We've been doing nominations on Snapchat. So we chug a beer and we nominate somebody and all these other people, and then they chug a beer and then they nominate you or whoever else.
So that'll work out really well until I drop a door on my head.
You know how you avoid that? You just don't download Snapchat.
I haven't yet, although I did see Dexter had some leaked footage of him drinking beer and Fireball. I shared it to his page yesterday.
Dude, like, is anyone else like on the same page as me, missing like the compete?
Absolutely.
Like, everyone here is elite at the sport of 5-pin bowling and some other sports. Like, I'm missing competition, man.
You know what's killing me, Danny? Not being able to see my son play soccer.
Yeah,
well, it's absolutely killing me. I could care less about my competition right now. I'm kind of getting to that age where once I'm in the moment, then I'm in the moment. But man, that's the thing I miss the most right now.
Maybe well, he's a stud, right? You enjoy watching that. Who wouldn't want to watch their kid be the best player on the field at that age category? Like, you're missing that. Like, that's huge, right?
I don't know, man. I think this is a good opportunity for you to, teach him a real sport like baseball or football or
started teaching him how to play poker.
Better than soccer.
Hey, take a look at some of the soccer wages that are out there.
Braxton's okay as long as he doesn't start crying when he falls down.
Oh, no Neymar. No Neymar.
Hey, Gombac, I think you have offended Ray Basaraba. He texted me. You didn't do a shout out for the 1998 gold medal Saskatchewan men's masters team.
How did that even happen? Did they accidentally win somehow? What's Bath doing? It's been a
every
while.
other province boycotted that year.
Alberta boycotted that year.
I always give Ray a hard time that I could bowl with Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, Barney, and Alvin Shaw and beat that team that won that gold medal.
Hey, I'm not saying Saskatchewan hasn't represented their province really well in the past. Well, no, that's exactly what I'm saying. They represented themselves very well since I've been around.
There's been a few really good teams, especially out of Regina.
Oh, there's so many
Clark
good
boys
players.
and stuff, right?
Just for whatever reason.
Saskatchewan's got great players.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how great they are. They don't come on podcasts, so whatever.
Lonnie do it, eh?
Well, Lonnie and Lenny did, but Regina guys are slim pickings.
No, Lenny didn't. Lenny didn't. No,
Danny?
Clark?
he was.
Doug Clark won't?
We tried Doug. Yeah, he's
Doug,
on
you
our-
should.
We had Kev.
Yeah, we had Danny.
It's too bad it's not.
I stand by my statement.
Yeah, we had Wisp.
Cam Robinson and guys like that
Saskatoon.
are still around. They'd be fun to have on a podcast, right?
I tell you who'd be fun on a podcast, Phil Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know that you could do it live. Right? You're probably sketchy enough having me and Snyder live. Never mind that.
Yeah.
Beat through
Right.
a plexiglass wall.
Yeah. I guess bringing up old stories or old memories. You guys have been around the game for quite a while and playing the cash circuit and stuff like that. How has the tour changed for you guys from when you first started playing to what it is now? Well, before COVID, I guess.
Well, they used to be relevant.
Snyder, I'll let you go first.
I'll lead the way on this one. Yeah. Like I grew up going to all the money tournaments. I was going to the Regina Classic. It was the Coke Classic back then at Prairie Lanes. I think the first time I entered, I was 15 years old. And that's all I knew early on. And then started going to Calgary and Edmonton, and back then Winnipeg. I usually do that circuit quite a bit. And it was great. Loved it. Met so many great people in the bowling was competitive. And as Adam said, I was a little more relevant back then than I am now. But what you guys have done. Oh, hi, Maya. How's it going?
Got a seventh guest.
Yeah. So what you guys have done to the game, like Cary and Dexter, Tim, Adam, I know there's been a lot of hard work in kind of re-energizing the game. It actually what brought me out of retirement. I was like so impressed what you guys did with the WCBT tour, and it was just really exciting. And as Danny said, competition is what drove me back to it, wanting to compete with you guys and try to get to your guys' level. Haven't been able to achieve that myself lately, but sure striving to get better, and the excitement you guys have brought into the game and all the youth and the young players that are coming out. It's so fun. And then the people have never changed. The people are always so great, province to province. Just meet so many great bowling communities. It's really, really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what was the question again? I got sidetracked there.
No worries. The question was just how has things changed in the bowling world from when you first started playing to what it is now?
Well, I mean, everyone knows the bowling community is pretty tight-knit group. I play a lot of sports, and I don't think I can put any of them ahead of the group of people and the quality of people you meet in bowling. There's just something about it. I think everyone knows that. Whether you're competing against each other or with each other, it is really another level of friendship and mutual respect. It's kind of amazing, to tell you the truth. So back in the day, same thing as Cary. Like me, I don't know if Cary ever told you the first time we met. I mean, it was over a $10 bet in the hallway of KG Bowl. I think I was 17. Me and Jen Marshall hit the road and decided, let's go to Saskatoon and try and win some money. And Cary being Cary, you know, might have had a couple ryes in him, and I might have had a couple, who knows, or whatever, right? And all of a sudden, Jason Butler is arm wrestling Cary Snyder, and I put 10 on Jason Butler, because I never seen him lose an arm wrestle, and Cary $140 back then, dripping wet $140. Takes him down, no problem. I lost $10 to him. Me and been buddies ever since. So it's crazy.
I don't think
right?
I don't think I've lost a bet to Danny since then.
Oh, come on. Yeah. So I mean, the tournaments back then, even like, it was amazing. Even though you were young, old, didn't matter. Everyone hanged out together. Everyone enjoyed it. The events were great. Bowling's another level now, though. Like, so me and Cary both don't play as much as we used to. We took time off. The other four knuckleheads here on the screen, you guys are still at the top of the game and playing and committing to it. And the level you got to be to compete at all these events and do it, it's unreal to me. I'm pretty impressed with how good everyone is now. And the tours, the caliber of play now is so high compared to 10, 15 years ago when me and Cary were competing at all these tournaments and doing well and making masters teams or open teams. And I don't know that I was ever good enough to do what you guys do on a regular basis these days. It's pretty impressive. So bowling to me, to see these tour events and Regina 200, what I don't even know, 250 entries, something like that,
67?
268.
Am I in the same ballpark here?
No.
Yeah.
Entry wise,
268.
it's amazing. It's amazing. And these aren't junk entries. These are all guys capable of making the cut and competing. And it's unbelievable to me how good everybody is now and how the game hasn't changed friendship wise and competition wise. But yeah, the game has changed for sure. It's a new group and it's a better quality. The events are much harder. Back in the day when me and Cary showed up to an event 15 years ago, you could pick 40 guys on the list and you knew that 30 of those guys were going to make the cut. You don't get that anymore. You don't know who's going to make the cut, who isn't. So many good players.
Yeah,
right?
there's a lot of like great players that miss cuts. Like it happens. It's hard to make those cuts. I think all the bowlers back in the day, I think all of them were hyper talented and definitely were as talented as like the top of the game is now. But I really feel like at some point, with all these tournaments being so hyped up and getting all these extra people, that it just forces you. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know whether like I think that they were all the same physical like abilities, but I feel like at this point it just takes an extra level of focus that maybe wasn't as required back then. You know?
Well,
Maybe.
I think
you push the envelope more now, right? You're forced to be better, right?
Mhm.
So you are, right? Is that what you're saying?
I think social media has a lot to do with it too, right? Before, the only time you knew about those tournaments, if you weren't hooked up with a legend or somebody that's been playing the events lots, was by a paper flyer that might have got passed around at your local bowling alley. Now it's instant. You can look it up. You can like, it's such much easier access. It gives people that weren't in the know, weren't in those groups that were the ones always traveling, that they all of a sudden know about it and they want to go try out. And it just gives a lot more access to players that probably didn't know about it before.
Yeah.
Well, I think probably the biggest difference I've seen from when I played the tour back, I guess, in the 90s was the number of entries. Other than KG had a high number of entries. I can't remember what they used to get up to, but like Regina, Winnipeg, 120 entries, Calgary, I don't know what Edmonton used to get, but and now like 240 plus. Like you got all the tournaments are getting 200 plus. Like you need to average 270 to make a cut. And back then, when I played as a little more, it was more like your cuts were more like they could be as low as 255, but usually over in the 260 range.
Mm-hmm.
The players, I think, I feel like the players work on their game a little more now, and
100%.
I might be wrong on that, but I've never been the type to really work on my game, and I guess it shows. Hey, Adam.
I'm in the same boat, man.
Yeah. I think, Cary, I think you're a little bit like, I agree with you on that. I think the difference is like, and maybe it's different that Maybe because I'm getting older, and you can say maybe I'm getting more mature if that's ever something. But
Nope.
but back when I was 18, 19, playing with these cuts for 120 entries and stuff like that, people let loose a lot more. I mean, people were having more drinks. They were okay. You show up hungover the next day. Not saying this doesn't happen nowadays, but people find it as a job. It's a lot of money on the line.
Yeah.
People you're doing more like that. They're going there as to win. I'm not saying you didn't win before, but there's a good time when you don't make the cut, or it's a good time when you get knocked out. It's a lot different than it used to be in that aspect, I find.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right for sure. Yeah.
We do have a question on the board from Mr. Lenny Anseth for Cary. He's wondering if you still get random phone calls from Wayne Ruhr telling you that he never beat him.
Does anyone know who Wayne Ruhr is? Any of you?
No, unfortunately not.
Wayne Ruhr.
I know Wayne Ruhr.
Wayne Ruhr is a legend, like Regina bowler, and he bowled. He was friends with my dad, and Wayne Ruhr, he was on CBC. You could actually see him on YouTube. There is a few frames. He's a really tall guy with a weird style, but wasn't a really well-liked Regina bowler, but he was pretty talented, and he actually ended up doing some sandbagging. But there was this time he called. I was in YBC. I'd been to a couple nationals, and I was starting to get kind of good, and this Wayne Ruhr loved mind games, and he called my house. I was probably about 12 years old, and he called and my mom answered the phone. "Cary, it's for you." I'm like, "Hello," and it's Wayne Ruhr. He goes, "You throw 5, I'll throw 6. You throw 11, I'll throw 12." And he hung up the phone. And he was starting to get into my mind already. So yeah, that was Lenny
At
Wayne
age 12?
At age 12, yeah.
Wow.
I was age 12. He'd have been about probably 25. Yeah.
Snyder, you know about the Wayne Ruhr story. Like I wasn't around, but I remember the Saskatchewan guys telling me, didn't Wayne Ruhr during the provincials one year, there was a bye and he wanted to go to Dairy Queen. So you guys all know during the Open, a bye is about an hour long, right? So there wasn't a Dairy Queen. He couldn't find a Dairy Queen, so he just kept driving until he found a Dairy Queen. Well, he ended up missing like 2 matches. He had to go to like an hour drive to find a Dairy Queen, and he came back. His team had to play without him. He played with 5. Is that not a true story?
Like he had some crazy stories, guys.
Yeah.
He bowled a game from a foot from the head pin. He walked up the lanes and bowled a whole game, throwing the ball a foot from the head pin, and scored 270 for a perfect.
See,
Trying to throw 300.
I've definitely thought about it. Absolutely.
Me too.
Isn't it 270? Is it 300?
No, it'd be 300, right? Or no, it would be 270.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You're right.
70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried that though? The closer you get to the pins,
It's
the
tough.
harder it is to hit the middle.
No, really? I can't stop punching.
We're not throwing giant hooks at it, Danny.
With your style, Danny.
That might be easy for you.
It doesn't hook. I got no time for the
The,
hook.
the backhand's the driest spot.
Like the right news, man. Wayne Ruhr was a cat. He was a strange man. He was a good bowler though.
Yeah, every time I see Rob Shamus, that's the story he brings up, the Wayne Ruhr story.
Speaking of Rob, it looks like you might be able to duck the Heritage again.
Yeah. Rob, we want to see you there, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. Crazy. So I guess we'll ask you guys a couple special guest questions. We won't go so in depth, but who is your bowling mentor growing up? And we'll start with Cary.
Yeah, that would be my dad. My dad managed a bowling alley there was an old bowling alley called the Nortown in Regina. Not the Nortown that's there now, but it was on Victoria Avenue. It was an old movie theater. So I grew up in a bowling alley from ages. I was throwing balls at age 2, and dad managed. And dad was a pretty good bowler. He bowled Masters in the Open. He wasn't like an elite bowler, but probably averaged in the 240 to 245 range. And I was living my dad was managing then the Melville bowling alley in Saskatchewan. It was 4-lane house, maybe 6-lane house. And I went to my first nationals in 1981 at age 7, and my dad coached the team and that type of stuff. So yeah, my dad would have been my kind of bowling mentor.
And you, Danny?
I don't know. Like, I mean, I obviously, like all of us, we grew up playing YBC and had lots of good coaches, and it was fun. But I mean, I guess I really got serious about bowling when at some point you realize when you're starting to win tournaments and you're the single for YBC and all that, and you get into it. But when I came out of YBC is when I really started to concentrate on bowling. And I don't really know if I have one guy in particular, but I used to, Daryl Bailey out of Calgary, he used to gamble me $5 a game on Thursday nights cash league. We used to gamble. He was the best bowl. I think he was the best bowler in Calgary. Colin Cure probably might have been at that time, but Daryl Bailey was one of these guys that liked to gamble, and when something was on the line, you could trust him to bear down and throw a strike. And he was one of those guys I just respected, that this guy's good, and when it matters, he's even better. And so I gambled him and lost. I don't know how much money I lost to him, but it was a bunch.
I was going to say, he must be a rich
this is
man.
when I'm like 16, 17. But by the time I was about 19, 20, Daryl Bailey quit gambling me. And that's when I knew I became decent at the game. And that's when but Colin Cure, he was a legend. Dave Sanderson, I worked for Dave Sanderson at Claiborne Bowl, and then at Toppler Bowl. I've always respected Dave. Dave's a phenomenal man. And Daryl Bailey was a hell of a player. I respected him a ton. But really, when it comes down to it, the other guy I really looked up to, and almost everyone did. And I had the pleasure of playing with him. I'm lucky the era I was in. I got to play with guys like Lynn Howell, Bruce Mortar. I got to play with these guys on national teams, on Alberta Masters teams, and Bruce. Like, how do you compare to Bruce Mortar, right? So, I mean, Daryl Bailey when I was getting better, and Bruce Mortar as a bit of an idol as I got to play with him.
Right.
So,
I was gonna say Daryl probably stopped betting you because you paid for his mortgage, but
he probably didn't need to gamble me anymore, right?
Exactly.
He was already flush. He was good. Yeah. So,
He was a guy that could not punch. Like his head pin was a strike.
yeah,
Just a pure crack.
I never ever seen a guy throw with so much stuff on the ball. When he was on, you guys, there was no such thing as a head pin. And I don't know if you guys remember, like Adam would for sure, but the bowling alleys don't seem to do it anymore. When you throw it right on the nose and you get that crack and it just has no chance but to be a strike. You get that crack now, sometimes it's even still a corner, right? Or it's just a plow or a head pin split, right? Like, I don't know about the houses in Edmonton. I know they're higher scoring, but back in the day when it was all wood lanes, if you were throwing the ball right, you couldn't plow, right? It just went crack. You'd throw it right on the nuts, and you knew that you can't get tighter than that, but it still wasn't a plow when you were throwing it really good. It was like a pool ball. When you hit it into a rail with spin, it would come off sideways. It's exactly what the bowling ball would do on the pin. It would go sideways. And I don't know, the houses don't do that anymore, I don't think. You get the odd one, but not like it used to be, right?
It's weird that hit it almost like it ducks under now and just kind of rolls out hard.
It's
right?
different.
Rather than like the crack, everything straight back, everything just goes down. Dex and Tim, you could probably know more than anybody. Is it the bands?
No, I think it's the bases. I think bases are huge, the black ones, and I think back in the day, I mean, I was not as old as as Cary or Danny, but the wood pins was probabably pretty big back then.
Wood
right?
pins,
wood pins, right? But
no, it was never wood.
Well, no,
we're not that friggin' old. Holy shit!
but besides that, I definitely think I know it's a huge difference in the park this year. I play thick. I just and all the time, and I'm not carrying it. And I think partially depends on synthetic lanes, how much oil there is on the lanes, and how much they're dragged down, I think, and grab. And I also think the black bases are huge.
Yeah.
I noticed. I think those are the two big reasons why you don't get those anymore as much.
The wood is indicative of like a late movement. The synthetic, it's harder to get that. At least with like the newer synthetic lanes, they're all pretty much the same, and it's hard. It's hard to get that late movement without having, very little oil at the front end. But yeah, no, I think the bases make a big difference, and I think you're right, Adam. I think those shots are still sort of going, especially if you can get that late movement. But you're right. I think that it's just a different reaction. I think they're still going, but you're not getting that cracking noise anymore because they're not flying up into the pins. It's just rolling out. But yeah,
well, pins used to just sail like backwards. Now they just kind of duck under and roll out.
Yeah,
right. Because pins used to just go straight back. It didn't go up at all.
Yeah,
right. That crack is still the best.
They would slide sideways.
You knew when you hit that
sliding sideways.
Yeah, right? You knew when you got that good hit because it was thick and the pins were all still standing and they just ran into each other.
That's right.
Into the back of the pit, right?
That's right. And that's when you knew you were throwing your shot right. So now you don't even know. Like you guys know the ball I throw. Like I need to, the reaction of the pins tells me if I'm throwing it properly or not. And back in the day, I used to know by that crack sound. Now I throw the same shot and you don't get that crack sound ever. So now I'm like, okay, am I throwing it right or not? I have no idea. Right.
Back in the day, nobody knew if you were throwing a good ball or not.
I knew. It was rare, Adam, but it still happened once in a while.
Those goldenrod star lines.
Those were the small ones, the 4 3/4. You can't even use those anymore now. They don't act proper. They don't get any.
That's not true. I still remember when Collingwood first came out, TPC at Collingwood, and pins were just flying straight up. So you almost needed a 5-inch ball. And then all of a sudden, it's like a 4 7/8 ball still kind of reacted the same. 4 3/4, yeah, like it's still going to jump up a little bit, but I still think like the star line seems to grab those bands and still roll out like they used to.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll switch to Starline. I need all the help I can get.
Nobody likes throwing Starlines, Danny. That's a horrible decision. So we'll continue with the questions. Cary, your favorite tournament?
That's definitely the Regina Classic. I grew up in Regina. I've been playing it a long time. Know all the players there and just seen that tournament develop. They just treat you so well at the Golden Mile, and just a lot of good memories there, a lot of good friends, and they put on a good show every year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a staple on tour, and as all of us know, we used to play it before it was part of the tour and hanging out there. And I know I mentioned him a little bit earlier, and he may not be liked in the bowling community so much anymore, but Phil Robinson really made that tournament popular to begin with, and then it continued from there, right?
Yeah, he played a part in it, but they always had a strong committee, and I know Phil was part of that committee, but they had a strong committee back in even the Prairie Lanes days. So he was one of many that helped that tournament.
Yeah, for sure. And you, Danny?
If we're counting everything, I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. Alberta Masters, right? There's nothing better than making Alberta Masters team and taking that trip, which is more. I don't know if it's the same setup as they used to do, but I remember the first time I went to Alberta Masters tournament, it wasn't just about bowling. There was enough time. It was almost a holiday and a bowling tournament. And it was the only one I ever remembered it being free time and bowling. Every other event we go to, we're just living in the bowling alley. But the first couple times I went to Masters, there was time to do stuff. It was a holiday. The bowling mattered as much as anything. It was just, the experience and the level of competition. And winning helps, right? So I was pretty lucky the first time I went to Alberta Masters. I won as a rookie. We had a ridiculous team, and it still came down to the last game of the last, against Ontario, heads up for the gold medal. It was just, I don't know if I'll ever be able to equal that experience. So for me, I fell in love with it instantly because of that first rookie year I was ever on Alberta Masters. Nothing will compare. That Alberta Masters gold medal that I won my rookie year would be better than if I won, I won't lie, than if I won a singles tournament for 10 grand. Money's money, but that tournament, that was my goal, right? My win, right? So
see, Tim, that's what your experience would have been if you would have played better.
What? The Masters?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had 4 dicks on my team, so I wasn't really too worried about
Where was yours?
it. Between my legs.
Well, no, apparently not.
Hey, Danny, you say that's like the highlight of your career. Where's the medal these days? Any idea?
no idea. You know me, Adam. Adam, I couldn't even tell you what year it was. So where were we, Adam, when you told me I remember we were sitting down having a dinner at some tournament, and you asked me a question. I gave you the wrong answer. You asked me
Wrong year or something?
I'd been to or something. I can't remember, but I was wrong. Like, you knew the answer better than I did, right? Like, I forget shit, right?
You couldn't even remember the difference between logos when we held Masters here. You're sitting there wearing your Alberta Open shirt, and you were arguing with me, being like, "No, this is a Masters shirt. I got this. A national shirt counts." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not a Masters shirt." "Yes, it is. That's an A5 logo." "No, it's not." "Yeah, it is."
Well, once I looked at it, I realized you were right. But then what? Right? Like, I'm at the tournament bowling already.
It's like, oh well, things happen.
It's a good thing I wasn't green, right? Because like 10 years earlier, they probably wouldn't have let me bowl that tournament. But you guys are like, who cares? It's Gombac. Let him play.
Danny will argue with anyone about anything and think he's right all the time.
I'm right. I always right, Snyder.
Do you guys have a favorite match or a tough match that sticks in your brain?
Danny, go ahead.
I don't know. Well, yeah, I got one. When I was younger, Rose Bowl. I firmly believe Dave Gurley. I don't know if you guys remember Dave Gurley. He passed away. Really good bowler out of BC. But I firmly.
Did we lose Danny there?
Yeah.
I've never.
Oh, there he goes.
Oh, he's back. Go ahead, Snyder.
I missed something.
Yeah.
So anyway,
you're back. Okay.
Anyway, Dave. Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Danny.
Okay, sorry, it's saying it's connection lost or whatever. So Dave Gurley, I firmly believe cost me Rose Bowl. I lost in the B final to him when I think I was like 21 years old. Don Salmon ended up winning the tournament. He beat Dave Gurley in the final, but I was up like 80 or 90 pins going to the third game against Dave Gurley, and I started with 6 from the gun and I lost. So that's hard to do, right?
Yeah.
So he threw like a 390 and I plowed 7 and I plowed 10 and I lost. And then he played terrible against Don Salmon. Back then, the final was actually 4 games, but you played 3-game matches all the way up until the final. Then you played 4 games, and I was on fire. I didn't even understand that I wasn't going to win that tournament. And then Dave Gurley rattles off 8 from the gun and then spare. And then I don't even think he needed to throw his last 2 balls after I punched 10. And that was it. I was done. And I thought I was going to win Rose Bowl. And that's the one. And then I kept playing the cash events and I never, ever have won. Everyone on this screen, I think, is Cary. I don't know if you have, but I mean, I know the other 4 of you have all won a big one, Calgary or Regina or Edmonton. And I never have. I've been lucky with gold medals with Masters, and I got one with the Open thanks to Adam. But I mean, other than that, I've never won a big cash tournament, and I've never really worried about it much because I enjoy the team thing. But that match I'll never forget. I really did think I was going to win the Rose Bowl, and Dave Gurley started with 8 from the gun. And I had a great game going, and I was up 86 or something like that, and I still lost the match. And I just remembered, like, no matter how good you feel, somebody might just be better on that day. You just never know, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the match that hurt. So.
Well, for me, I guess it would be most of my match play career was done ages and ages ago. I haven't been fortunate enough to make any of the cuts lately. So I guess just a recent match where I performed well and that was memorable would have been at I guess around the 2015 Open Nationals. I was on the Saskatoon men's team, so representing Saskatchewan, and we were playing we were playing in the third, fourth match, and I think we were playing Northern Ontario, and I think I was bowling third. I couldn't even tell you who I was playing against, or maybe we were playing Southern Ontario, but I played a really good match myself, and it was coming down to the 10th frame, and I struck out in 10 to give our team a chance, and the 1 in 10 was really thick, and it was a leaner, and we had to call that, so it was a pretty nerve-wracking match for me, and we ended up losing the match and not medaling. We finished fourth, but that would probably be my most memorable match as of late, which is kind of sad, but it's the truth.
But how exciting is that, coming down to the 10th frame and you throw the 3 to give your team a shot like that? The adrenaline rush must have been unreal, right?
Yeah, it's definitely fun. Actually, I think, you know what, I said 2015. It was actually just it was last year or the year before in Gatineau. I got the year wrong. I got a memory of Gombac.
2 years ago then.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah, I think Cary, you were there representing Alberta that year.
Yep.
And I guess I should mention one other. Probably my favorite match of all time was in 1986. I was bowling Len Anseth in a one-game match at a youth bowling at the Minto Bowl, and I just crushed him really, really badly. He was bowling really well for him. He shot 119 that game, and I think I banged out for about 155, and I just crushed Anseth. So
yeah, I really think you crushed Lenny's dreams since then too. Yeah. I hear him always complaining about it, and really rough moment in his career.
Yeah.
I must say, Cary, that list that you put out there a couple of weeks back was pretty funny. So some humbling moments for a few, I could imagine.
And you have to admit, Adam, I did beat you one game in cornhole. You just had
out of how many?
Yeah, we don't need to go there, Adam. We don't need to go there.
If we were betting the same amount as you were betting against everybody else,
well,
I'd have your mortgage in Ontario.
I think you were the only one that could beat me that night.
Snyder, if you did beat me, I'm telling you what, I must have beat everyone else because I made money that night. There's no way I lost money on my wedding night there.
You guys kept taking everything out of Santino.
Wow. That's been happening for 20 years.
No doubt.
Is that on the books or is that real money?
On the books, Snyder, on the books.
On the books, yeah. Those are the good old days.
The books fly.
Yeah. There's been some gambling nights in the history of me and Cary Snyder and some of the boys we hang with, that's for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think it probably wasn't the first time I met you guys, but it was Regina Classic. We were up in the rack above the bowling alley there and playing pool for money. And then all of a sudden we were playing poker for money at the hotel room. It was like 7 a.m. I had to go bowl the morning shift. I'm like, what the heck just happened here?
Did he have a good time though, Cary?
I always had a great time.
Yeah.
Every money bowling tournament I ever bowled would be staying up till about 7 a.m. and then not always performing so well the next day.
that actually might have been the year I won, so it might have helped me actually.
Wow.
That was a long time ago, Cary.
Yeah, it was. Like I said, I think it might have been the first time I hung out with those guys.
Wow, that's great.
And it might have been the last time.
The last.
You know what you need to do then? You need me and Snyder to show up to another cash tournament.
I have to spot you guys just to show up so I can play good again.
I'm in. I'll take it. Don't expect a return, eh?
Oh man. So in your guys' bowling arsenal, what are you throwing and what are you wearing?
I got soft rolls. I think cyclones are the other ones. Are the ones I actually throw. And then I just bought a Aramith that I really like. I just bought one ball at the Regina tournament. So, and I'm wearing Dexter's, I think G3s or something like that.
3G.
3G, yeah,
If-
yeah,
if-
3G, yeah.
Then if they're 3Gs, then
Yeah,
those are
Dynaroos.
Dynaroos. Or they're Tour Ultras.
Okay, I don't remember.
Does it say 3G on the side?
I'm not even sure. I'm really not sure.
Do you guys know how
custom.
many tournaments Cary like didn't know where his shoes and balls were like the next morning, cut or not? Like, do you guys even understand who you're talking to?
Okay, Cary, your shoes on the bottom, your
Yeah.
slider, does it have an edge around it?
I don't think it does. No.
And your heel, does it have a peg in it?
No.
Okay, they're not Tour Ultras.
Not 3Gs.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're making shit up.
Snyder,
They're Dexter's. That's fine.
Snyder, do you-
Dexter. I said they're Dexter.
We
SSTs?
did.
Are they SSTs?
3G is not a model that Dexter came out with.
No.
Okay.
can we tell a couple stories about Snyder's bowling shoes or bowling balls here?
Guys,
Of course.
I'm
Okay,
not
so-
kidding you.
So
that-
Snyder, how about the 1 year in Winnipeg?
Oh, here we
Do you
go.
remember the 1 year in Winnipeg that we're playing?
Yeah.
And
remember.
I already pulled a shift and I was terrible. I didn't qualify. So like I go to Cary, I'm like, what do you got in your bag? Like I need something different here, right? So he gives me this ninja ball, this black ninja ball. I don't know what it was. I have no idea.
Ninja.
I end up using this ninja ball. I throw lights out. Like he's got one ball. That's it. Didn't matter. I was throwing nothing but strikes with it. Right. So I make the cut, everything. And the next morning I got to play match play. And I'm like, Cary, where's this ninja ball? He had friggin' thrown it off the overpass of the highway on the way back to the hotel room because he didn't make the cut or something. Like I don't even know if I'm telling the story right.
Yeah,
I need
that's
this
about
ninja
it.
ball because I'm throwing lights out with him. So he bowled with it after I did, right? Because there was another shift, right? So I light it up with this one ninja ball he has, and then he bowls again with it, and he doesn't make it, and he throws it down the highway off this overpass, and I need this ninja ball for the morning, and he's turfed it like it's gone, right? But didn't you go get it back, Snyder, or what happened? I can't even
We went
remember.
down the highway, there was no getting it back.
Yeah. So anyway, I struggled the next day. Snyder cost me that tournament. If I had that ninja ball, I would've won. There was no stopping me.
I am not exaggerating one bit, but I've
Yeah.
lost about 4 pairs of bowling shoes
Yeah.
and left my bowling equipment all over the country and
Yeah.
had to have it shipped back to me.
There's still a bowling ball on some highway in Winnipeg, right now.
Winnipeg.
Yeah. Because there's no way that got cleaned up.
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg.
Had finger holes like the overpass. I don't know if it. Are any of you guys old enough to remember that walk back? Was it St. James? I can't remember
Yeah,
the
St.
hotel.
James and Viscount, I think it was.
Yeah, but either way, like it was a pretty sketchy walk. It was always minus 30, and you
Yeah.
always had to look over both shoulders and make sure no one was coming up on you to mug you, right?
Hey,
Like
Danny,
it was crazy, right? Like Winnipeg
Danny,
was crazy.
What
city.
about that cab ride back from Scotty Barber's house in Winnipeg? That cab ride we had that one time. Do you remember that or no?
I don't. You'll have to refresh my
Okay,
memory. There's
yeah,
a few.
that'll be
There's
a-
a few
that'll be
sketchy
another
moments in
day.
Winnipeg.
That'll be another day.
Yeah, there's some stories. I can't remember them all. People bring them up, and then I'm like, I might have been there. And like, what do you mean might have been there? You were there, right? The story's about you. Oh, okay. So
We got 2 old timers with Alzheimer's. So
Yeah.
stories, who knows if
many
they're even
Ryan Cokes
accurate.
boys. I can't remember the stories, but yeah, Snyder's got some good bowling ball and bowling shoe stories for sure. But yeah, that was one of them. He screwed me on that one because that ninja was the best bowling ball I've ever seen in my life, and it was gone like
Doug
8
Clark
games
might.
later after using
Doug
it.
Clark had 2 of those as well. I don't know if he ever sold them or what, but he did have 2 of those.
Yeah, I
Ninja-
think I went bang bang in Winnipeg after that. Maybe not bang bang, but
I think bang
I
bang.
didn't win. So,
Yeah.
So
All right. So besides a ninja ball, Danny, what bowling balls do you have? Because you don't have one of those.
while use soft rolls, which I tried to throw out at was it Newfoundland, Adam? When I tried to throw him out, and then
Yeah.
dug him out of the garbage can. Were
They
you
should
there
have
at that
stayed
tournament?
there.
Yeah, I got
yeah, I
soft
was
rolls I
there.
still use. I tried to throw him out in Newfoundland one year. And was it Melissa Manor? Is that her name?
Yep.
Yeah, she dug him out of the. I got a phone call before the next day started saying, "Did you lose some soft rolls?" I said, "I didn't lose them. I threw them out." She says, "Well, I got them. They had nacho cheese and salsa and everything all over them, but I cleaned them up and they're waiting at the bowling alley for you." And I said, "Oh, great! So I could average another $1.90 tomorrow with them, right?" So, and I'm still using those soft rolls. So I'm still averaging $1.90 when it matters. So perfect.
That must be a Calgary thing. I hear Mark Miller threw his in the garbage at the open zones trials, and Mike took them and sold them.
Yeah,
So
he copied my move, I think. So
no,
yeah.
he actually didn't get them back. He
Oh
didn't
no,
take them back.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
He actually gave another one away.
Yeah, he gave another one away with it too. Yeah, he had 3 sets. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Calgary bowlers struggle. We just throw away our equipment, I guess. Must be the equipment, right? It's not a lack of talent, right? Must be the equipment.
Clearly.
So, yeah. And Dexter shoes. Always Dexter shoes. I had Dynaroos for 1 year and I demolished them in less than half a year. They didn't hold together. So, but
Were those Dynaroos purchased from the Scotty Barber bowling shoe sales?
you know what? They would have been, yeah. Scotty Barber back in the day when Dynaroos hit the scene. They were comfy, they were good, but
They were really good.
Yeah.
but if you slid your back foot like all of us do, they got demolished pretty quick, right?
And the right foot I found like exceptionally slippery. The rubber compound to that is like way slipperier than the Dexter's. And as soon as I got rid of them, I got better because I could actually stay stable when I pushed off. So
You could plant, yeah.
Yeah.
You could walk, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. So, what else is up? You guys need to tell stories. It's always your guests telling stories. You guys.
I told the story.
What are you talking about, Danny? You already told us. You don't even listen. How do you know this?
I listen when I talk, don't I?
Actually, I had a pretty cool memory pop up on Facebook a couple days ago. It must have been the end of the Topper season because I had ended up posting something on there. Me and Derek were about to collect from you and Rich.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
In what some people were calling the worst bet in sports history.
Yeah, it might have been.
Oh, weird. Danny was involved in that bet?
Yeah. Danny and Rich were betting me and Derek home. Probably the 2 best players in Calgary.
Not probably. You guys were that year for sure.
And it was either $10 a game, and then we would either double it or triple it so we could catch up and all that stuff. And it was relatively decent money league, so we ended up getting $400 or $500 bucks, back type thing. And those guys would basically just donate their portion and then open their wallet to give us more.
Yeah. It was
teams get divvied up.
It was charity without trying to be charitable.
So who got first pick in that bet?
Well, of course, Derek and Adam. Like Derek needs to have an advantage, or else he doesn't make a bet, right?
Me too.
So, right. So between Derek and Adam, they figured out how they can have the upper hand, and me and Rich just looked at each other. Fuck, screw these guys. We're betting. Let's go. And then we lost.
They just knew the suckers in the room.
Quite often and quite regularly.
So you mean we used your ego against you guys? Shocking.
Ego. I didn't even have ego at that point. I started to be a bad player.
Who are you kidding?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, that's one of many things I shouldn't have done in my life. So.
You guys, I got a question for you. I've never asked the question and never heard, heard the story. How did the WCBT start? I never heard whose brainchild it was and how many of you guys got together to figure it out.
So I guess I'll tell the story. So every year we always hear people like, oh, there should be some type of tour point system going on to show who the best players on the tour are, best players in Canada. And then C5 came out with the top 100 men's and ladies and stuff like that. And then shortly after that, Adam Martin came out with a point system. He was using the Masters, the Open, and some of the cash tournaments to figure out who the best players out this way were. And from there, me and Johnny were kind of talking, oh, we should start a tour thing. Then we talked to both the Wisemans and we're like, oh yeah, we should really start something. And then we just decided, you know what, let's register a not-for-profit organization, and then we'll talk to the cash tournaments and we'll see if we can get something going. And it was just literally in like 2 days we had it registered, and then we started stuff.
I remember driving out to the ballpark and signing it on like the hood of somebody's car and being like, I'm not reading this, but if this is a legal document that's selling my soul, I don't want any part of this. But yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we asked Blair Tuck to be treasurer, and it kind of just rolled from there. We had our first AGM like shortly after that on I think what was it
Skype.
at the time? Skype, yeah.
Oh yeah.
What year did you guys roll this out?
2015 is the first year.
2015.
Yeah.
Great work, guys. It's really impacted people across the country, and I know people, it's kind of a breath of fresh air for bowling.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people from out east come out to these tournaments out west.
Yeah, it was just something to tie them all together, because I don't want to throw any tournaments under the bus or anything like that. But back in the day, it always seemed like the tournaments were competing against each other. Like who can get the most entries, who can make it the highest first prize overall kind of thing. We just wanted something to bring those tournaments together, because they're all trying to do the same thing. Let's make this all work together and share the success, right?
You're celebrating each tournament's success instead of trying to compete against it. It's probably still healthy competition, but
oh yeah, Tim tends to rub it in against Regina quite a bit, but they got him this year, so
yeah.
Well, it's crushed them.
2 entries.
2 entries. 2 entries. Do you know? I think honestly, Cary, I think it was the first time, and I'm not not begrudging any other centers out there, but it was the first time all 4 centers we were all friends. We all worked well together already.
Yeah.
I know we were fortunate when we took over from Collingwood. I text Kevin, I text Rick, and then they were there to help us immediately. Obviously, Shelby and I have always had a good, and Tweety have had a good relationship with Dexter and us. And then Calgary, Mark Miller is one of our really good friends, and Adam used to run it down there. So it kind of just all worked together at once, and it just we started picking up. And you probably will never able to listen to our first Skype meeting. It wasn't like there was some stuff on there that obviously you
could hear some bubbles in the background, and we were all confused.
Bubbles in the background.
I'll just lay out the board on our first meeting that was nominated. I was nominated president. Mark Johnstone was nominated vice president. Matt Eisenhower was nominated second vice. Treasurer was Blair Tuck. Secretary was Chris Jeffers from Winnipeg. And there was some maybe some not so savory, not legal at the time stuff going on.
Because of the last name?
all legal now. All legal now.
Yeah.
It was good. It was strange just to get it going like that, and then.
Okay, so tell me how. So I know I saw a pamphlet that Winnipeg's going to host a tournament. So is there a chance of adding a 5th tournament to the tour, and how does that work?
Yeah, so there is a criteria that a tournament starting up would have to meet to enable to ask to join the WCBT, and then it would have to go through a process. So the main criteria is the tournament has to be a $200 entry tournament. It has to have over 100 entries in the prior year, and it has to be a 32 qualifier event.
Okay.
And if it meets all those criteria for 1 full year, then it can apply to be part of the WCBT. Obviously, it would probably get approved because obviously we want to grow everything. And then if that tournament for some reason drops below 100 entries, it gets 1 year grace to bring that number back up. And if it fails, then it gets dropped.
And that's the danger with Winnipeg, though, right? Like back in the day, I remember traveling to Winnipeg from Alberta, which isn't, a cheap trip. And there'd be 80 entries, guys, right?
Yeah,
You know,
for sure. But like that was at a different time period in bowling.
it was.
I mean, TPC. I think the year I won was 113 entries. And I remember Red Deer was struggling to get to 100 entries. And Calgary was up in the same area, right? So
110, 120.
right,
Yeah.
and Regina was the big one at 140 or 150 entries, right? So that's a different time period, and
Yeah.
and there's
The
a
criteria has changed too, right?
For sure.
It was 75 to begin with, and now because of the success of the tournaments getting 200 entries, we moved it up to 100 to be the in.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I truly think that there's a different enthusiasm in Winnipeg at the moment now too, and Manitoba as a whole. So I think it's absolutely viable for sure.
I think the tour sells. Like, I mean, we pay $1,000 assessment fee. You can say the tour, right? As TPC, each of the events are it's $5 an entry for a maximum of 200 entries. This goes towards their production costs and everything else like that. And I've always said I find that $1,000 the money well spent, because I guarantee you, I'm making more than $1,000 back from more entries coming in from it. And I strongly believe, like, you look at how many memberships do you have now, Cary?
I couldn't tell you the last number, but it's like 107, I think.
So 107. So even say you get a third, maybe 2/3 of that go to Winnipeg, plus their local entries. It's almost a done deal. I think it just makes sense why 100 would be okay. I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just there to so backstory. BC Challenge started up in Abbotsford for 1 year. They were trying to become a part of the tour, so they ran the event for 1 year. And a bunch of us Alberta players went out there to support it and play in it. And it was a fun tournament, but just the local support failed. It just didn't end up with the entries, and it showed the very next year they'd even try again. They dropped the entry fee, and then they played a smaller entry fee tournament instead. It is tough if you don't have the right committee and the right local support. Those tournaments they're tough to run, right?
No, for sure. It's pretty tough to maintain a big cash tournament like that when a lot of the local entries know they can't compete with the players that are coming in from out of town, right? You got a few locals that can, like that. I remember that the Manitoba Open. You had great players. You had Cam Boone, you had Jeff Bourne, you had Robert Shannis, you had great players out there, but there was only 7 or 8 of them, and the 230 average bowlers wouldn't play that event with all the other players coming from out of town, and it just dwindled, and it was a great event, and it just made no sense for back then. It was Mike Deviney hosting it, right? And it was a money loser. Dave at Toppler for years, the Autumn Open, he lost money running that tournament every year, right? So, now you guys are getting crazy numbers with all the work you guys have done with this tour, and now bowling centers can host an event and actually not lose money on the weekend. And that's part of it too, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of it has to do, now that you have this amount of entries, you can pay out cut money of like $500 a lot of the events are doing. So it's affordable to go out there. And if you make the cut, you're up money. You might be even ahead. And then you get to play for money on Sunday, right? Where back in the day, you went all that way, you paid your $200, you make the cut, you go bang, bang, you probably lost money easily, right?
Yeah, I think Regina, I feel, maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Regina was the first tournament that actually made a big cut money.
Yeah.
I remember it because I think I made the cut that year. I remember the first time I ever got paid $400 without winning a match.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, that was big, right? Because that kind of paid for, your travel and a shift, and now the pressure was off financially, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the big incentive, right? That's, I think, why you're seeing a lot of youth movement and a lot of local players gonna play 1 or 2 shifts, because if you make the cut, you should be up money, especially if you're local, right?
Yeah.
There was kind of a question from Kyle Yardy. Even with the WCB team being called the Western Canadian Bowling Tour, if we've ever thought incorporating the NEBS Club Tour with us. So there obviously has been talks, not so much with the Englands themselves, but discussion between the East players and the West players about doing something like that. The thing about the club tour is it's a different setup. Like the host center is putting up some money for the event to bring in prize money, first of all. So there's a little bit of work that would have to be done with them to make our events comparable. They definitely are starting to get the numbers. So numbers wise, they're comparable, but the structure is just not there for it to make it super viable at this time. But across Canada tour, it's only a matter of time, right? If this ECBT or the club tour or the Mitch Davies competition tour or whatever you want to call it, it's going to be essentially four tournaments strong, right? Because they have Timmins, Midtown, Club Tour, and Elmira.
Yeah.
They're going to have 4 of the strong tournaments out there too. And if they make something of that and they have a tour championship, and then maybe we can meet in the middle and play a big championship.
That'd be sick. East plays West for the Battle of Bragging Rights, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that's something that's more viable at this point in time instead of making a Canada-wide tour, because
For sure.
let's face it, air flights in Canada are redonkulous, and that's not viable for a hobby sport. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to my boy Kyle. He bowls in my league on Thursday nights.
Oh,
there
that's
you
awesome.
go. Thanks, guys, for sending in the questions. I think we're gonna probably wrap up this podcast fairly soon. I just want to give a quick shout out to Johnny, the vice president of WCBT. He's going to be starting up a WCBT store through Bradson Promotional's site, I do believe. So we'll be posting about that shortly in the future. So you can get items from the WCBT, since none of us are meeting up anytime soon. You can order on the store if you have some extra cash flow and want to support the tour and buy a piece of merch. It'll be on there. Is there any other topics you guys want to hit on quick here?
I don't know where we are time wise, but I mean, we never talked about the Open at all. That's where we would all be right now, is
Right.
playing Open. I mean, myself personally, that stacked Edmonton team in their home city at Bonnie Doon there, and I mean, I was looking forward to trying to knock those guys off, but yeah, I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but yeah, it kind of sucks that we're not playing the Open right now and having drinks in a hotel room right now together and telling these stories with each other personally.
Danny, you're going to hear it from me. All right. Obviously, I'll quickly go over the Open stuff for me, for Alberta at least. The reason why we said May long is because we only had, it gives us a 2-week grace period in order to go to nationals, right?
Yeah.
But we all knew that it wasn't going to be May long. I had a suspicion about it, but we had to show to our membership, to our bowlers, that we're committed to running it. So a couple weeks ago, C5, I was part of the meeting where they mentioned we had a president on there and executive, and we voted to postpone it. So now nationals could be, they're looking at September, or I don't think August. Don't quote me on this, but I think September is a viable one. So that means that we have opened up our provincial dates. We have way more time to do our provincial dates. So that means maybe July, maybe early August, not conflicting with the tour finals. We are able to host it. My big worry is I don't want to keep on postponing it. I want to go far enough in advance where people can be like, you know what, this is going to be the date. We think it's going to be healthy enough and people are going to be safe enough to host it, and we'll go there. That's the next part of it. So May long, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think it's going to be running May long, especially with Kenny's announcement. But we are. Yeah. But now, if by chance there is no nationals, I'm right now it's positive, and we think there is going to be nationals. We all want a nationals because people want to play if it's safe. Could people miss the competition, miss the people? Alberta is still going to be running their provincials. We find it's still necessary to run it because it's something our team like how many people like we have a couple like Tyler or Jenna might never have played as rookie, and you might never have the opportunity to play again. I think it's also great for our membership to we give something to them. We can't just keep taking things away, and I think it's something we have to. Now, whether like I don't know if they forward you off the email I sent out, but whether it's only maybe a 3-day thing instead of a 4-day thing, maybe narrowing down instead of us playing round robin of 5, we might only do like 4 or maybe even 3 or maybe no banquet just because how everything's going on. There might be this year might suck in that aspect, but we still plan on having a provincials. Just and I guess the thing is about the scheduling. It's more or less for people to see what it's affordability for people, right? I mean, the more times you're back to work, you want to have them being at work instead of taking nice 2 or 3 more days off when they have to. So that's where we're at for the Open right now.
Yeah, it would be cool to still run it. I personally feel myself that you could save an entire day by not having a singles competition. I don't know if that works for most people, but I like the team event anyway. And you always get every player that's bowling well gets a high enough amount of frames in anyway during the team competition. Whoever has the highest average, minimum of whatever, 3/4 of the frames played is your single. You save a whole day there. You can still have the event. And as soon as I recommended that in the Calgary area, everyone's like, well, no, every other single other than me. No, we got to have the singles competition. Well, why? Do we go there as a singles tournament? No. I go to the provincials to play on that team, man.
Well, to be fair with you, Danny, there's certain zones that are obviously there for team, but let's be fair, there's some zones that are going to be playing for a single spot.
That's
Bonnie McDonald, Bonnie.
Yeah, that's fair. And I didn't really think about that. How is Bonnie going to go to nationals realistically without playing singles? But she still does play singles with her team average.
It's a different feeling.
Yeah, your option does work. It obviously it could be worked out that way.
I think you save a whole day, and the pressure's still on. The team event, if anything, there's more pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to end up with a shitty player and someone that doesn't deserve. It's only between 15 guys, you guys, and 15 ladies. Not everybody's eligible for singles through the team event. Only the top 3 from every zone.
Mm-hmm.
You still have a 1 in 15 chance of being the single to represent Alberta. It's just now you're taking the average that you played in the team event with a minimum amount of frames in, which you're going to have anyway when you're playing well, right? The singles, the 15 guys that aren't, 5 of those guys aren't playing well. They're on the bench and they're not getting those frames in anyway.
So Danny, would that requirement, like the minimum frame requirement, be released ahead of time? Because now you could have a coach pull a player once they hit that minimum requirement because they're playing really well and not risking the chance of them missing out on a single spot.
Or does that cost you? Or do you not pull a guy when he's struggling so that
because he needs
to get the frames in,
So this is where the integrity of the game comes in. And this is where I come up with the Ted Williams thing. Does anybody know the Ted Williams story? When he was batting 401, he's batting 401 and there's 1 game left in the season. And his coach went to go sit him and he said, what are you doing? Like, I'm not sitting. And then he goes 3 for 4 and ends up with a 403 average or whatever it is for the year. I mean, integrity of the game is integrity of the game. You're playing the team event to win the team event. If the singles thing happens, it happens, right? I mean, if somebody wants to not play the last game because they think their average is high enough to win the singles, and then so I sit because I'm scared to bowl and Cary, you play and you throw a 380 and you pass me, well, then that's on me.
Yeah.
I've seen players do it to win league high averages. I just throwing it out there.
So we have
integrity of the game, man.
Two things.
Toffelmeyer
and Weber. And so let's face that. But the other thing is, like, if you think about it, if we take off, because we go usually 2 blocks each day, so 10, 10, 5, right? So because the lane draw might not be the same right now as it could be down there, right? So if you go 10, 10, 5, you could almost go singles, and then you go 10, 10, knock 1 off, and then have no banquets, and you'll be done. That could be an option there, right? And you can still have both.
No banquet. Where do I drink my Ryan Cokes? No banquet.
I have ways. I can figure that out for you.
You're already not allowed to drink when you bowl.
Danny,
now there's no banquet.
Yeah, you're gonna get a breathalyzer after every game. I'm not worried about that.
Wait till I average over 270 before you give me a breathalyzer.
Well, you're at Bonnie Doon. You better be playing 270.
I don't know if I can anymore.
It's oily lanes. He can't do it. He needs a ball to move. So I remember when Danny came up. We're on the bus. We're going to Grand Prairie, and Danny's like, "It's dry lanes. I'm going to be money all week. I just know it." And he's throwing some practice balls on Wednesday after singles. Like, "Oh, you guys better watch out. I'm going to be solid." And what'd you average, Danny?
I don't know. Not very good. But did anyone average good there?
I did. I did.
What did you average?
I made All-Star with 240.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That wasn't even a bowling center. That was crazy.
You shoot 220 and your win percentage is probably 80% plus.
Yeah.
It was crazy. That was like, what is it, Innisfail? Right? Like,
yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like that's a grind, man. Like bowling
It was
tournaments
terrible.
are tough when you're bowling your nuts off for 230, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. No more houses like that. So
yeah.
Hey, Timmy, so if nationals were canceled for the Open and you guys still wanted to push, the provincials, what happens if it does turn into October or November by the time everybody gets back to normal? Would you guys still host it into the next bowling season?
That's something I don't know. I mean, if you're looking in October, November, the schedule's already tight as it is.
Honestly, if we can't get back into bowling centers before October, November, we're just not going to have bowling alleys to host it.
Yeah.
Snyder, has Ontario, like, did you make the Open? Have you played it? What's going on?
I made the Open. I made singles, and we've moved it back to May, and it's not going to happen in May, and they'll look for another date into June. But I feel like we've lost hope. Like, I don't see it happening, but they haven't canceled it at this point.
I think from everything that I've seen that they sound like they're pretty committed to running it, Cary.
Are they?
And yeah, and even Jeff Forrester is messaging on here saying he's pretty sure that Ontario and Nebs are committed to running provincials as well. I know that England's put in a lot of work and wanted to make it like extra special for you guys being the first time hosting it. So if they have the opportunity, my betting guess would be that they try to run it. Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we might just see a postponement or a cancellation of national events, but I hope all the provincials decide to try and run the provincial events. It's nice to have provincial champions, even though they don't have a chance at a national championship.
Yeah.
We owe it to them, yeah.
And if you can, though, right? Like, Calgary's already announced that June 30th date. Like, that's crazy, right? You can't host anything or any kind of event until June 30th. That already takes care of a lot of stuff that's been scheduled, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Now what, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly. All right. Well, we'll end it on that note.
Awesome, guys.
Nice, some positive.
Thanks again, guys.
Hey, thank you very much for coming on here. Thanks to everybody tuning in as well. Really appreciate it. This was awesome.
Yeah. Happy 50th -2 birthday there, Cary.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for the time, boys. Happy birthday, Cary.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk soon, gents.
Okay, bye.